Good Shabbos and blessings. It's very wonderful to be here and be able to see some of my friends who are here with me right now and to be able to talk with all of the Chevra. We're talking today, I want to talk about an aspect of from the Parsha Chayei, but dealing with the issue of what are we willing to give? What are we able to give? It's a profound parsha. I was going to have my little boy be part of it too, as sort of a show and tell, but my 8-month-old, he passed out, so not good to use him. Next time, perhaps. I want to thank also Aviva Zornberg, who triggered some of these thoughts in me. The great Torah commentator. This place of Chayei, which means literally the life of Sarah, of course is not about her life. Chayei is all about her death and what happens after her death. And it's trying to speak about the issues that came about from and leading up to Sarah's death. There are 3 narratives that touch upon why and how she died. One of them, just to give you an idea of how it comes down. When Abraham came from Mount Moriah, the Satan was furious that he had failed to realize his lust to destroy or to abort Abraham's sacrifice. So what did he do? He went off and he came to Sarah. And he said to her, "Ah, Sarah, have you heard what's been happening in the world?" She said, "No." He said, "Your old husband has taken your boy Isaac and sacrificed him as a burnt offering." While the boy cried out and wailed in his helplessness. Immediately she began to cry and to wail, the Medrash says, and she cried 3 sobs corresponding to the 3 tekiah notes of the shofar, and she wailed 3 times corresponding to the staccato notes of the shofar, and then she died. She gave up the ghost. Abraham came and found her dead, as it said, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to bewail her. This is found in the Perkei de Rabbi Eliezer. There are 3 narratives about this. One, that she is approached by the Satan. One, that he actually dies. And the third, the Satan here has told her that he has lied to her. And the third narrative is that Isaac himself comes and says to her, tells her the whole scenario that my father took me to sacrifice me. And she becomes completely freaked out. And she says to him in a very poignant moment, "If the angel had not come to save you, would he have sacrificed you?" And the boy replies simply yes. And the Medrash says at that moment she died, because she couldn't handle, even though her son was living there in front of her, she could not accept the terrible, difficult truth of that he would have been sacrificed by his own father. So we talk a lot in terms of these 3, in terms of the sacrifice as an atonement. But who is really sacrificed? The sacrifice of Sarah. The sacrifice of Isaac doesn't happen. He's saved. It is Sarah who gives her life. All of these narratives come to move us, to help us understand that deep, deep, most difficult of understandings, which is not that we have to give our life for something. Because as difficult as that is, we understand it really very deeply. We understand it almost intuitively, that I have to dedicate myself to something, that a man in an army, or a woman with her child, we must sacrifice ourselves. But what is very difficult is the understanding that we must also sacrifice each other. There is a way in which we must take our children and move them or put them in a certain direction, and that is the most difficult of sacrifices, feeling as it does, often like death itself. A foolish example, many years ago when my first child was born, and we had to decide which kindergarten to send her. I mean, that was such a difficult decision for me that I was staying up late at night and pacing the floor, so it was more difficult than doing my defense on a PhD that I did. It made me more crazy. Why? Because choosing that road was a sacrifice. This road rather than that one. This direction rather than this other one. And the Torah is trying to say, regardless of which road we choose, there is, for the person making the choice, for the person who is involved in it, like Sarah, there is an aspect that has to die. There's an aspect that is so difficult, so painful, that there is no release from it. And I think that this is really pointing or seeking to point us in the direction of wisdom. That part of the wonderful, joyful thing we call life is also to be able to embrace these things that are very, very difficult, both for ourselves but also for our children, both for ourselves and also for our friends and loved ones. That we sacrifice or direct ourselves, but we also have to do that for our friends and family, and with our friends and family. And to make that kind of a judgment or to go in that direction is so very difficult, but so necessary to come to a place of maturity, to come to a place of chokhmah, of wisdom. So I bless us all for a sweet and joyful Shabbos, and that all the decisions that we have to make are not so onerous and difficult as these ones, and I will talk with you again soon. So Zusha finally woke up and wanted to come say hello. So and now he's restless as anything, but he wanted to come say hi. Good Shabbos.